What's up, traders? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and this is Phase 3. Today, we're going to be going over 3-day setups, right? So, 3-day setups is something that I feel like is easy to spot on a chart, but when it comes to trading in the live market on day 3, people freeze. They're not at levels, they're diddling in the middle, they're labeling everything as a higher high and a lower low. They're not really locked in. So, I decided to create a video to give you guys more clarity on the criteria needed for these setups, right? So, another thing that I wanted to say before I get in this video is that if you're a beginner or even just if you're intermediate, I feel like you should only be trading one setup, okay? When you're trading both setups, you're looking at everything. You're not locked in. And would you rather be a jack of all trades or would you rather be a master of one? That is way more valuable, guys. These setups will come as you learn, but start off mastering one setup, maybe two signals, and stick to it at least for like 2 months. Just stick to one setup, two signals, or maybe however many signals you want, but just one setup because all it takes is one setup to change your life. And not only that, guys, but it takes patience and discipline to trade these setups, right? So don't hop on the charts forcing things. Let these setups come to you. If you're forcing it, then you don't have a setup. All right. That's just plain and simple. You need to wait for these, guys. You need to be patient because these setups are what's going to give you those parabolic trades, those high probability setups. So choose a setup, choose the signals, and stick to it. All right. So let's get into these setups, right? So you have buy setups and you have sell setups. All right. So for buys, I'm looking for day 1 to show me a peak formation high. Then I'm looking for day 2 to show me a peak formation low. I need higher highs on the inside, and this will give me the dump and pump. All right. So it's just a larger dump and pump model over 3 days, right? So the sell is the same thing, just reversed, right? You have the peak formation low on day 1, the peak formation high on day 2, lower lows on the inside of that pump. And then that's what gives you the pump and dump. Okay. So it's just a larger template over 3 days, just a big pump and dump model. So that's what we're looking for. All right. So now I'm going to show you what exactly this looks like on a chart. Okay. So like I said, sell setups, peak formation low plus peak formation high plus lower lows on the inside gives you the pump and dump. So look at this chart right here. These yellow dotted lines are my previous day levels, right? So say that the previous day for here, the low was here, right? This yellow dashed line, we have a peak formation that was made, a breach of the low, right? So we have that peak formation, we have that breach, and you'll know it's a peak formation because these peak formations will make patterns, W's, elongated W's, shortened W's, okay? So look for those shapes at those peak formations. All right? So we got the peak formation low. So now we're looking for a peak formation high on day 2, which we get here, right? So this is the previous day's level and it breaches it, right? Gives you a peak formation. So now we know that the high is locked in. All right, we have this M shape and now it's starting to give you lower lows in the inside, right? So the next day we look for our model, which is the pump and dump sell high setup. So it can either be here, right? Or you can be at the previous, so say this is the previous day's low and it breaches it, right? If it breaches it, then what does the market do? It can only do breakout, pullback, trend, which is what we're looking for if you're looking for the sell setup, okay? So if you're looking for the sell setup, then you need to have either the reversal, right? Or you need to have the trend, which is if you're already in the downtrend, in the dump, it needs to breach the previous day's low, pull back, and trend. Okay, so that's exactly what you're looking for with that setup on a day 3. Now let's look at buy setups. All right, guys, so this is a buy setup, right? And when we're looking at buy setups, we need a peak formation high, peak formation low, higher highs on the inside, and that will equal a dump and pump, okay? And this is over a span of 3 days. So in this diagram, say this is the previous day. these dashed yellow lines are previous day levels. So if we need a peak formation high day one, we need a breach of a previous day's high, and it needs to create a peak formation. All right. And these peak formations will look like M's, they'll look like shortened M's, they'll look like elongated M's, they'll look like V shapes. Any of those create peak formations, and you can tell they'll be very distinct. Okay. So look for those shapes at peak formations. Now, on day two, you need a peak formation low, and those peak formation lows will be created by W's. Regular W, we have elongated W, we have a shortened W. There will be those type of shapes, a V. All right. So those are shapes that you can look for from those peak formations. All right. So we have our day two. Now, one thing that I do want to note is that this is not a day one if day two does not create a peak formation, all right, on the opposite side. So in order for day one to be valid, day two has to validate it. All right. So if we have a peak formation high, the next day, day two, we need a peak formation low. If we don't have a peak formation low, then this is not a 3-day setup. Okay. So when you're looking on day two, you're looking for price to breach the low and then create a peak formation. And that will start the count. All right. So then you'll be on day one, day two, and then day three, you're taking the trade. So on day three, what are you looking for? You're looking for price to work that peak formation low, coil, and pump. All right. And that is the 3-day setup. Peak formation high, peak formation low, higher highs on the inside. So there'll be higher highs on the inside of that, right? And then the dump, coil, and pump. Okay. So those are buy setups. And when you're taking these setups, guys, you can take them to where the dump started. Okay. So vice versa, if you're looking for a sell setup, you can take profit where the pump started. All right. So let's now go ahead and look at some sell examples. All right, guys. Now this is SPX 500, and this is actually a trade I took today, right? So we have a pump and dump model that happened from Monday to Wednesday. All right. So Monday was day one, Tuesday was day two, and Wednesday was day three. Okay. So what are we looking for on day one? We're looking for a peak formation low, which we do get here, right? We have that little W, or you can call it a V. Either way it goes, it's still a peak formation. All right. Peak formation low. All right. So on day two, what do we need? We need a peak formation high, a day that breaches the high. All right. So we have a V shape at the previous day's high. So now we have day one and day two. And day two validates day one because it breached the opposite side. So once we have that peak formation low, then day two, we have that peak formation high. What are we looking for? Let's go to the 15-minute time frame. So this was today. And what I was seeing before my New York session, because obviously if this is SPX 500 and index, we want to trade this in New York. So I saw a low created in Asian. All right. And then when London came around, I saw another lower low. Okay. So now this around this time, it's probably like 6 a.m. and it's actually breached the previous day's low. So if it's breaching the previous day's low, I'm looking for this, right? Because technically we're in a trend right now, a downtrend. It's breaking down. So if it's breaking the previous day's low and making a lower low, lower lows equal pump and dump. Okay. So this was my setup. All right. So let's go to the 5-minute time frame so I can show you guys exactly how I entered. Now, when I'm looking to enter these trades, right, I'm looking to enter them for one off of levels, of course. I need a lower low to be created. After this lower low was created, what did it do? It pumped up to the previous day's low. So what do? We draw our trend line. All right. That's our trend line. Sorry, it looks kind of ugly, but that's my trend line. And then what are we looking for? The inside of this trend line. We're looking for lower lows. Lower lows. All right. So when we got this lower low around 9 a.m., it pumped up and it started consolidating. All right. So it starts consolidating and then the market opens up and it just pumps up. Once it starts pumping up, I'm thinking a top. And this is the classic trap and shift pattern. Okay. That's the trap and shift pattern. So when you see consolidation and then your timing window opens up and it just starts shooting up to the level, I'm thinking a top, a top. Okay. So you can see right here, we get a trap and shift. And then after it pushes up to the previous day's low, it then immediately reverses down. So with these trap and shifts, they will not play around at that level. They will push out, break out of that consolidation and immediately reverse. So after I saw this, I entered here. Okay. But you don't have to enter there. You can wait for the retest, which we do get. Now you could have either taken this retest or you could have waited for the 10 a.m. club. All right. And this is usually the safer entry, guys. This is always going to be your safest bet, the 10 a.m. club. It makes another lower low. It pumps back up to the high, right? It pumps back up. It coils and dumps. Okay. So that was my setup. I need I needed to breach the low for one. I need lower lows to be created. After that lower low, I need it to pump back up to the level, coil and dump. Okay. So that was my trade that I took for SPX 500 today. It was actually a banger. I got out sooner than this. I got out somewhere around here and then it pumped back up again for that 10 a.m. club trade. Okay. So let's keep going. This is GBP USD, the hour chart. So this is a pump and dump model, right? Because we have day 1, day 2, and day 3 right here. We have a peak formation low created. As you can see, it's a W pattern, right? So it's locked in the low and then it's pumped back up. All right. So we got our day 1. Day 2, what do we need to see? We need a peak formation high. Okay. So you have your peak formation low on Monday. You have your peak formation high on Tuesday, which is locked in by an M pattern. If you can see, this is a little mini M pattern. Okay. So we have our peak formation low, peak formation high. What's next? Lower lows on the inside. All right. So you have your peak formation high. You had your lower lows on the inside. Draw your trend line. Draw your trend line. You want to be on the back side of this move, right? So after you have your lower lows, what are you looking for the next day? The pump and dump model. All right. So I can see that in Asia, we were pumping. All right. So now after we pumped and we broke out of a level, we are pulling back, right? And now we're consolidating. We're going sideways into London. Okay. So after I get lower lows on the backside of this pump, right? It's on the backside. It pumps back up into that high that was made, coils and dumps. And this is nothing but this, guys. This is just a mini trap and shift, okay? So it was going sideways. Let me clear it up a little bit. All right. So it was going sideways. And then the start of the London hour, it pumped up, it broke out, and immediately reversed and dumped. Okay. So that was a trade that you could have took in London. Now, if you were looking for the New York trade, we can see that it actually breached the previous day's low and made a lower low. So lower lows equal pump and dump. Okay. So after it made a lower low, it pumped back to where? Closing price. After it pumped to closing price, it starts to coil. It starts to print side by side candles. Okay. In the coil, you'll get those lower lows. Okay. You'll get those lower lows in the coil and then the dump. Now, this happened in the gap time, right? So this wasn't a trade that you could have participated in, but I'm just showing the process of it. So after the dump, we are now coming up to New York opening hour. All right. So we've officially made another lower low. Let's go to the 5-minute chart. After we make this lower low, it pumps back up. Where? To closing price. After it pumps to closing price, it starts to go sideways. All right. So we actually make a lower low inside of our trend line. So that's another sign that now I really need to be looking. Okay. So after we get our lower low from the macro pattern, it pumps back up to closing price. Draw your trend line. Then it makes a lower low inside of my trend line, then pumps back up to that high that was created and coils. All right. After it coils, it produces a strong bullish candle that goes back up to the closing price, and then it immediately reverses down. Okay. So it's like a little mini trap and shift pattern right here. That was a little trap and shift pattern, but it was an entry that you could have took right after you're well above your EMA. Okay. So just remember, you're looking for, after you get that lower low, you're looking for the pump to a level. Then you're looking for that lower low inside your trend line. After you get that lower low in your trend line, you're looking for it to pump back up again to where the high was created. All right. And then you're looking for the dump. So that's what you need to be looking for with these trades. And these trades just go. So the 3 day setup pattern is very, very lucrative if you know what you're doing. Okay. So now we're going to talk about buy examples. All right, so I actually found an example of a buy setup on SPX 500. So this is actually a setup that happened from Wednesday to Friday. So Wednesday, day one, Thursday, day two, and Friday, day three. Now, if we're looking at a buy setup, day one, we need a peak formation high, right? So like I said, these peak formations will be locked in by M's and V shapes, all right? So look for those at the extremes. So now that we have a peak formation high on day one, what do we need on day two? Well, in order for day one to be validated, we need day two to make a peak formation low, okay? So after the peak formation low, we now need higher highs on the inside, all right? So after this higher high, now we're on day three, okay? So this was the higher high. It is now dumping. It is now coiling. All right. So after the dump, we have the coil, and now we're getting higher highs inside of this dump. All right. So before 9:30, price actually breaches out of the previous day's high. So when we get a higher high, higher highs equal dump and pump. Okay. So after it breaches the previous day's high, it dumps down. Let's go to the 5 minute. After it breaches the previous day's high, it dumps down, right? So now what are we looking for? We are looking for higher highs on the inside of this dump, okay? After we get the higher highs, what's next? We look for it to trade back into that low that was created, right? We got the dump in the coil. We're looking for it to trade back into that, all right? What are we at? We're at a level, closing price, okay? After it breaks out of this, it immediately reverses with a bullish candle right at closing price. Okay. So that's our criteria. After it gives this strong engulfing candle right at closing price, you can wait for you to get a pin hammer above your EMA, right? You can wait until it makes another higher high because honestly, guys, I was in this trade, right? I was in this trade, and this right here looks really ugly. I'm not going to lie. It's hard to trade this, but if you know what you're looking for, you have your higher high, right? You draw your trend line. After you get your higher high in your dump, draw your trend line. So now you got higher highs on the inside of this trend line. After you get those higher highs, what does it do then? It dumps back down to a level. And then that's where you're looking for entry. After it breaks out of this, it then prints a big bullish candle, starts to pump back up and make another higher high. So if you weren't comfortable with that first entry, wait for another higher high, dump, coil, and pump. All right. So it's just that simple. Just look for those same patterns. Okay, guys? All right, so here's an example of a buy setup for GBP USD. We have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday example, right? We have our peak formation high created on Monday that was locked in by a V pattern. We have our peak formation low on Tuesday that was locked in by a W pattern. What do we need to see next? We need to see higher highs. But if you notice that we don't really start getting them until Wednesday, but this just automatically took off. Soon as it breached the previous day's high, it just immediately took off, right? So I'm waiting to trade this pair during London or New York, right? So I'm just looking for simple criteria, guys. If I want to take the up trade, right? Because I'm looking for the buy setup, I need a higher high, right? So London creates that higher high. If we go to the 5 minute, let me scroll in a little bit, you can see that London has made a higher high. Okay, so higher high equals dump and pump. All right. So after it makes that higher high, it starts to dump. So let me erase this so I can draw it. We have our trend line, right? So inside of that trend line, what do I want to see? I want to see breaks in structure. I want to see higher highs being formed in the inside of my trend line. All right. So once I have that, I'm just looking for, considering that I'm in such a strong trend, usually what'll happen is you'll get a trend and then it'll make a higher high and then it'll make like a W pattern and then it will just continue to go. All right. So that's what I notice. If I'm in a strong trend or the pump has already started and New York session and we're already up high or London session, we're already up high, then I'm looking for trend continuation patterns. Okay. So that's one thing that you can look for. But the process still stays the same. You got your dump, you have your coil right here, and then you have your pump. Okay. So that's what you guys need to be looking for. Same for a New York trade, right? So after we get our London trade, it immediately just explodes, right? So New York opens up and we're up high. What is my criteria? I need a higher high, a dump, right? I need a dump, a coil, and a pump. All right, so this was the last example, guys. I would just say keep it very, very mechanical. The rules are there for a reason. It's for you not to think about it. All right, so you're just executing your process and taking the trade. All right, there's no fear if you are confident in your setup. And the only way that you can be confident in your setup is if you keep pressing the button, no matter what, guys, because we have to practice makes perfect, right? So we have to continue to execute our plan, right? So if you need extra help, or if you just need somebody to talk to, or maybe you just need a little bit more attention, I have a Discord with VIP access where you can get live calls, breakdowns, signals. I have a library vault with the best gem videos that I know of and more. You guys are welcome to join. The link is going to be in my description. And I also do one-on-one sessions for my Discord. I am locking my OG community in on Friday. All right. So if you want to be part of my OG community, then I suggest that you guys lock in on Discord. Okay. So this is phase 3. I'm Q, and until we meet again.